What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video here on Brian Turner Invests. If you're new here, we're here to talk about all things investments from Bitcoin to stocks, but the main priority here is cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I know I've said it a lot lately, but there is so much bullish news for Bitcoin, and this is just the most bullish news that's come out in the last 2 weeks. But I feel like we literally live in a simulation because every single day there's more and more and more to pile on. So make sure you stick to the end of this video because one of these stories, I don't know how we don't see Bitcoin at $50,000 by the end of March. That's my official price target, by the way. I was gonna wait till the end of the video, but I gotta get it out there. 50,000 by the end of March. No guarantees, none of this is financial advice. Let's jump into this video. Okay, so the first story that I want to report to you guys is a tweet that Glassnode put up, and Glassnode is a blockchain analysis company, so they look at a lot of different information and basically process it so it's easier for us to understand. But they put up this graphic to make it very simple. Now, a lot of people think that Bitcoin is controlled by just a very small amount of really rich people, and so it's not really that well distributed, and a lot of people hold the power. But this is a picture that shows the amount of people that hold a certain amount of Bitcoin. So right here we have 22 million shrimp, or people who have less than 1 Bitcoin. We have crabs. I like how they did all these sea creatures. 560,000 people who have 1 to 10 Bitcoin. We have some squids, octopuses, 72,000 people that hold 10 to 50 Bitcoin. We have 11,000 people that hold 50 to 100 Bitcoin. We have 10,000 wallets that have 100 to 500 Bitcoin. We have 1,500 wallets that hold 500 to 1,000 Bitcoin. We have official whales, 2,000 wallets that hold 1,000 to 5,000 Bitcoin. Then we have really big whales, 220 wallets that have over 5,000 Bitcoins. We have around 15 exchanges, and then we have about 51,000 wallets that are attributed to miners. So this kind of just puts it all to rest that a lot of Bitcoin is out in a lot of different places. It's not just 3 or 4 people or wallets that have it all. And this is actually really good news because we don't want all of it to be in one spot. We want there to be a lot of demand from all sorts of different sectors. So this is actually fantastic news. All right, story number 2, real quick. This is a tweet from Ki Young Ju, and this is a graphic from CryptoQuant where they're basically analyzing how much outflows are happening at a certain time. So outflows are basically the amount of Bitcoin they're sent off exchanges. This one is particularly looking at Coinbase Pro Exchange, which is one of the biggest American exchanges. And as you look in the past, you know, between December 6th and December 20, we had a spike of outflow, and then we saw the price go up. Right after December 20th, we saw another huge outflow spike as the price went up. On January 3rd, we saw a massive outflow, and then the price went up to basically our all-time high here of around like 41,000, something like that. You guys remember that. And then since then, we've kind of been going sideways, and you see there hasn't been a lot of outflow until just recently here. We have a huge outflow on January 31st of 15,000 Bitcoin going out at the price of around $32,000. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $37,000. So this isn't the only thing that, you know, tracks the price or shows movements, but this is very bullish news because as Bitcoin are taken off the exchange, one, that shows a sign that people are not wanting to sell right now. You know, when you see a huge amount of inflow to exchanges, that means that people want to be able to press the sell button and liquidate their Bitcoin positions. But also what he's pointing out in this tweet, he says, looking at the transactions, it went to custody wallets that only have ingoing transactions. It's likely to be over-the-counter deals from institutional investors. I believe this is the strongest bullish signal. So with Bitcoin, if you're not super familiar, you can see how many Bitcoin specific wallet addresses have, especially the large institutional ones. A lot of like the custody wallets, they don't change their address. So you can really see how much, like for example, Coinbase has or Binance has. That's how we get this information. And the fact that these Bitcoin are flowing off the exchanges into wallets that do not have outgoing transactions, it's all just coming in and being held there. That is a sign that these Bitcoin that are being taken off exchanges are being held in cold storage that are going to be held for theoretically a long time, which means more people holding, less supply, demand increases, and the price goes up. So this is actually really interesting. And again, I am trying to bring you news that you're not seeing on everyone else's channel because I think a lot of people don't cover these smaller tweets and stuff. And this stuff is very interesting to me. Okay, now this is the story that I was waiting to bring to you guys. I think of all the stories today, this is the biggest piece of news that we have. Now, we already know that Visa loves crypto and Bitcoin specifically. They have a lot of their fingers in a lot of different projects like BlockFi issues a Visa debit card that allows you to use and spend your Bitcoin. But this piece of news just came out on Thursday. Visa signals further crypto ambitions with API pilot for bank customers to buy Bitcoin. Visa is working with Anchorage Bank to allow customers at traditional banks to buy and sell digital assets such as Bitcoin. Now, just a few days ago, we had news from one of the top officials at Visa. I don't remember exactly what his position is in the company, but he said that they're looking at different ways that they can add value to the cryptocurrency universe and how they can basically be more involved. Now we're getting this piece of news, and this is crazy. Basically, we've seen a lot of different apps allow you to start buying Bitcoin. You know, Robinhood, you can buy Bitcoin and crypto. Cash App, you can buy Bitcoin. You have PayPal that even recently, a couple of months ago, started allowing you to buy Bitcoin and a few other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum. Now, it's just a matter of time until all banks allow you to buy Bitcoin. For example, my bank, Chase, allows you to trade stocks. So why not cryptocurrencies? Well, until just recently, in the past few years, there hasn't been a lot of official institutional trust in Bitcoin. They didn't really understand it, but now they're understanding how they can custody crypto for you, how they can act as the middleman for you so that if you don't understand how to hold it in a cold storage wallet, you can trust Anchorage Bank or you can trust PayPal or whatever. And so that's the position they're getting in, and they're really going to be doing this so that they can get those transaction fees, get those tiny few cents every time you buy a few Bitcoin or send them here and there. And PayPal has just put out their quarterly earnings, and it was way higher than their previous quarter, and that's because they started adding crypto. So PayPal has a lot of eyes on it, and a lot of other big companies are going to say, ooh, they were able to increase their earnings by a huge percent. We should get involved, or we should get more involved. So that's what's happening here with Visa. Anchorage is a massive bank, and after they see success with Anchorage, I'm betting you that it's going to expand to other banks, and eventually I think you will be able to buy Bitcoin in any bank that allows you to also buy stocks. And that is huge. Imagine the millions of people who are using banks every single day and they buy a few stocks here and there because, hey, the button's right there. Same thing with Bitcoin. Imagine millions of people who have heard about this Bitcoin thing, but they don't want to sign up for some account on some site they don't understand, Coinbase or something. But hey, it's a button on my bank account, and I trust my bank, so I don't need any more convincing. I'll put $100 into that every month. That's a huge amount of demand coming. This is I can't stress it. This is so bullish. This is crazy. All right, let's move to the next story because I'm getting a little excited here. All right, one of my favorite Twitter accounts, Plan B, or at 100 trillion USD. If you haven't heard of this yet, there's the stock to flow model, and basically this just tracks the stock to flow of Bitcoin, which basically every few years Bitcoin goes through a halving where the amount of Bitcoin that are created each day or mined each day halves. And so this basically halves the supply while the demand is still the same or increasing, as we're seeing every single day. More and more people are buying Bitcoin, but there's less Bitcoin that are being created. So what happens? Price goes up. So basically what he's done is tracked the stock to flow, and this is a very well-known thing in the Bitcoin community. And so far it's been pretty accurate. Now let's look at the graphic he just posted here. If you go along the line from the very inception of Bitcoin, you got that 2010 and onwards, you see that the color of the bubbles basically correspond to the months until the next halving. So we go from red and then we transition all the way to blue as we get months and months closer to the halving. So the blue dots are the ones where we're really close to the next halving. Generally what happens is as we get in that middle and kind of like that green light bluish territory, we kind of consolidate and go sideways, and then as we get closer and closer to the halving, we start to see some price movement, and then once the halving happens, you see this large spike up, and then it continues going parabolic into the orange and yellows and usually tapers off in the yellows. You see this happen in the last two giant spikes here. And the white line is what his stock to flow model generally predicts on a logarithmic chart. As you can see, so far it's been pretty accurate. Now, there's no way to know that anything is going to stay accurate forever, but based on, all of the halvings, it's been pretty damn accurate. So right now we are tracking exactly on his line, which is absolutely insane. So as you see, we are at the orange dots, and we're going to be hitting the yellow dots where we usually start to see very large gaps in the price as it goes up. And he's basically predicting here that just after about halfway through 2021, so sometime around July, something like that, June, July, we're going to be seeing $100,000 Bitcoin. Now, as you see, those dots generally shoot past the white line, and then they correct back to or under the white line. So we're going to probably, according to this model, see something like, I would say 150,000, 200,000 by 2022. So the end of this year. Now, Plan B actually did a podcast recently where he said 288K is where his price target is for the end of this run, which is sometime in 2022, maybe midways, maybe even towards the end of 2022. But he also said that honestly, he could see it going up to 400K. Now, let's not get, overwhelmed and caught up in all this, but it's great. It's great stuff to know. Let's move on to the next story before I babble on too much about this. Okay, so our fifth story here, a smaller story, and then the last one I'm about to tell you is huge, maybe bigger than the Visa one. So story number 5 here basically is that the Bitcoin subreddit has seen an increase of 500,000 members since a few weeks ago when this whole GameStop craze went on. So if you don't know about that, we don't need to go into that, but basically Wall Street Bets, one of the biggest Reddits, went from 1.8 million subscribers to 8.5 million now over the course of 2 weeks. And a lot of people have gotten interested in cryptocurrencies because they're seeing how volatile the stock market can be. They're losing a lot of trust in the stock market because of a lot of the shady things that are happening. And they're coming over to the cryptocurrency in the Bitcoin subreddit. So we've been able to increase by 500,000 people on the subreddit, which just tells me that there's a lot more retail who is basically beginning to start their foray into Bitcoin. Now, for me, it took 6 months before I was really starting to understand Bitcoin, before I started to trust it and started to put money into it, and about a year or 2 years before I started putting serious money into it. So I would say that this is just seeds that are being planted, and this is fantastic. Now, let's move to our biggest story other than the Visa one. Let's see. Okay, as you guys may or may not know, Michael Saylor, the CEO of MicroStrategy, the company that purchased over $1 billion of Bitcoin last year, I guess, he's doing the Bitcoin conference where MicroStrategy is hosting a webinar conference for basically any business, institutional investing that needs to happen. So basically, like any business who's interested in possibly starting to put some of their treasury assets into Bitcoin, but they don't know how, he's giving them the playbook that he's used, explaining how they can actually make this happen, how they can start to put, 0.5% or 1% of their company's assets into Bitcoin and purchase up Bitcoin. Now, this is already very bullish news. It's happening. This is the second day as I'm recording this. This is the second day that the thing is happening. The conference is happening. And already there's been a lot of really good news. There's tons of quotes. There's tons of people. There's rumors that a high up SpaceX employee is watching the conferences. So people are speculating that Elon is possibly going to convert some of the SpaceX treasury into Bitcoin, but that's hearsay. This is something that we know for sure, and this is crazy. So NYDIG expects to hold $25 billion in Bitcoin for institutional clients by year end. CEO Stevens said NYDIG's institutional order books are looking bullish for the year. So basically, this guy was talking with Michael Saylor on the conference, and he says that he has all these institutional investors who are lined up, which means to me that they haven't purchased yet. They are queued up with his company to help them purchase Bitcoin. And he's saying that that's $25 billion worth of US dollars that is sitting waiting for him to convert into Bitcoin, to purchase Bitcoin for these companies and maybe custody for them. I'm not really sure. And then he also goes on to say that that is roughly around 75 institutional clients that he'll be onboarding each month. That is possibly more bullish than the Visa news. Those two in combination, my mind is blown. Already we have more Bitcoin being purchased up than is mined every single day by PayPal and Square and Cash App just alone. Then you have Grayscale on top of that that's purchasing all these Bitcoin. And then you find out things like Visa, and then you find out things like NYDIG is purchasing 25 billion by the end of this year. And this is all already lined up with the stock to flow model. So already we were going to see this huge price movement, and now you have this huge inflow of money coming in. I cannot stress how bullish this is. I know this channel has talked about stocks recently. I'm very interested in them and they're very fun to me, but let me be very, very clear. Stocks are a playground side thing for me. It's a fun thing to play around with that gives me something else to look at and learn, and it's really fun. But for me, the big game, the big play is in cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin. In my opinion, like I said, Bitcoin will be at 50K by the end of March. In my opinion, by the end of this year, we're going to see a 6-figure Bitcoin. And now I know I need to do a beginner video. I know I need to do all that stuff. And again, I'm not suggesting anything at all, but a lot of people are messaging or commenting and saying, you know, 1 Bitcoin is so expensive. I don't want to buy that because there's other coins that are much cheaper. You can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can buy $100 of Bitcoin if that's what is within your budget. That's fine. It's more so about the percentage gain. So if Bitcoin is able to go to 100K, that's a little over a 2 times gain. If it's able to go to Plan B's ultimate target of 400K by the midpoint of next year, then that is basically a 10x. For me, that's an incredible gain potential. It's huge, huge upside. And I really can't see why Bitcoin would crash down. In my opinion, at the very worst, what could happen in the next month or so is we could see it retest down to 27,000 at the very worst. But honestly, I think all this demand that's coming in is just going to just destroy that possibility. Again, do your own research, do your own investments, but a huge amount of my total net worth is in Bitcoin. I'll say that, and I'll leave it at that. So there's the news for today. If you guys don't know already how to get into Bitcoin, I'm gonna do a beginner's video, but definitely check out BlockFi. You can not only purchase Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on there, which is great, you can also just hold your Bitcoin and currencies on there. If you aren't ready to figure out how to custody it yourself and keep it on a hot wallet or a cold wallet for longer storage, you can just hold it on BlockFi, and then you can also put it in a savings account on BlockFi, and they'll pay you interest on your Bitcoin in Bitcoin. So you're gonna earn more Bitcoin on the Bitcoin that you hold already. And like I said, for me, I'm holding forever, but I'm also, you know, not planning on selling until we see this peak really run up, and that's a year and a half. So that's, I think at their interest rate of 6%, that would end up being 10% more Bitcoin than you originally purchased. So definitely check out BlockFi. They also have a rewards. I think it's $250. Check that out. I'll put a link in the description below. But that's it for today's video. I just want to hop on here real quick and cover the biggest news. I'm going to keep bringing Bitcoin news to you and cryptocurrency news to you, but this is a hot issue, and I needed to get this to you guys fast. If you haven't checked it out already, check out the channel banner we just updated. I'm super hyped on it, and I believe I'll have an end screen on here, so I want you guys to let me know what you think about those, because I'm really hyped about those. And that is it for today's video. I'll see you guys in the next one.